Welcome back to page 121. Today I got to play with toys. These are the old Tyco Battletech toys from 1994 to 1995, which were out to support the Battletech TV series. I was deep into Battletech at the time. My son was 3. I used it as an excuse. I bought as many of these as I kept my hands on. I have several duplicates. I'm going to show you what each of these mechs is. And how you can play with them. These were family favorites for years. These only went back into storage probably when my youngest son was about 13 or 14. So they've been in storage 8 or 10 years by now. But prior to that, these were family favorites that were always to hand. And we used to hold family mech wars in our family room. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about each of the mechs that are out here. And we're going to take a look at how they shot their missiles and how they blew up, because they had parts that fell off and ejected and things like that. And amazingly, these toys are nearly 30 years old, and most of the stuff still works. I only have 1 or 2 very small clips broken off and things like that, but the missile launchers all seem to still work. A few of them were more problematic than the other. I'm looking at you, Thor. This missile launcher was never the greatest. Would jam a lot. But we'll take a look at the various abilities of these, and I'll be taking a look at who the pilot was in the TV series and everything. And we'll talk a little bit about which ones my family really loved and that kind of stuff. So today, a nice walk back, almost 30 years, to Tyco Battle Mechs from 1994 to 1995. Today on page 121. Pew, 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 pew. If it seems like I'm reading through part of this, I am. I remember what each of the mechs names were, but I don't remember the pilots. So I'm using the Battletech Tyco Toy Archive as my source of information on here. And it was a lot of fun reading over these before I brought everybody out to play. So here we go. I'm going to take them in the order they're on the website here. The very first one they deal with is the Axeman. This was piloted by Adam Steiner. Information is ammunition. Yes, that Adam Steiner. I like Adam Steiner, actually. I don't know why I made fun of him. There he is. There's the Axeman. This was a favorite mech of my my eldest son, rather, Patrick. He really liked this. Before I do that, I want to show the little guys that came with each mech. You got different clan guys that came with each mech. And they had their own little exotic-looking little ray gun and their arms and legs bent, and they fit in the mechs. They have a little neuro helmet. And then we had guys for the inner sphere that did the same. So these guys would be in the mechs, and if the mech got trashed and they ejected, then we'd do little adventures with them running around trying to stay alive. I just realized I grabbed 2 clan guys. One was supposed to be inner sphere. Oh, well. So there you have the little guys that are inside. So inside this one, I have Franklin Sakamoto, but again, for purposes of this video, I really didn't care who was inside what. This one had a problem with the clips. The clip that holds the canopy on tended to break off. It's still quite usable, and the canopy still stays in place, but it's not as designed. It doesn't flip up like it used to. So the Axeman came with his little hand axe, and there's a little lever on the back, and you can work it. Whee! Oh my gosh, look out. And it came with a fake rack of missiles, but it also came with real missiles. And the real missiles fired by turning this rear, oops, see, canopy came off again, by firing the gun from the rear. So you would hold the gun on target, and then pew pew, fired 6 missiles. Now we were very careful as a family. We only brought out enough missiles to fill each mech, and before we put them away, we put the missiles in to make sure we had all the missiles. Consequently, we have all the missiles. I was really surprised that we did. We put some stickers on this guy that came with the kit, and then he ejected by hitting this button, and he flew up into the air. I'm going to put the canopy back on because it's more impressive if you see the canopy fly off and such. And I always thought this was based on Kyle Lau's mech in some of the early Battletech clan novels. So anyway, he would whee, and he'd fly up like that. So that was the Axeman. I have a couple of these. And then next up, after the Axeman, we're going to take a look at the Mauler. The Mauler is this big guy here. This is piloted by Zach Hawkins. And Zach Hawkins was one of the main characters in the TV show. And he was a tough guy wearing a beret. And he was in her sphere, of course. And this is a 95-ton mech, I want to say, or 90-ton. And there she is. She's a big beast. She's the biggest of the mechs. And it fires missiles in 2 different ways. Plus it's got a little side launcher thing. This thing, choo-choo-choo. You spin the thing in the back. You spin the thing in the back, and this goes like a machine gun. My sons used to really, really get a kick out of that. And then Zach, for his part, has this big weapon on the side that fires, and then the missiles, the top 4 on each rack here, fire. So I'm going to go ahead and turn little Zach around, and I'm going to have him fire on my poor helpless Toad. He's being my weapon target. So it's an elemental, but they're called Toads. So this gun fired the big honking missile. You pull the lever back here. Maybe I got that wrong. Well, I'll find the lever in a moment. These missiles up here fired in a scatter shot. You press the lever here, blam. You press it again, blam, and then you had reloads down here. So it fired the top 4, and then you had 4 reloads, which was good when we were playing this with little kids. They always had missiles to hand that they could go ahead and put back in the mech. And then let me see about firing this big gun. I forget how this guy fires. I don't remember. I know he does. There we go. You press the button. I was trying to pull it. So this big old missile, here, fires by pressing the button out here, and blam, knocks the guy down. So that's the Mauler. I always like the Mauler. Mauler's a fun one. Oh, he ejects. He takes battle damage by hitting this button here with a missile, and he ejects also in his little cockpit. So, and it's got a little flame shooting up out of it and everything. So I always liked the Mauler. I thought this was a neat design. The next up is the Bushwhacker, piloted by a Valton Ryder. And this one was I think it was the first one we got. And I like it fine, but it had one little design flaw. I'll show how the guns fire first. This is supposed to be an autocannon here. Fires 3 missiles by turning the back. And then this is an LRM-5. I'm missing one of the 5. It's in there somewhere. I just haven't found it. But you just pulled these out. These didn't shoot. And this was a laser, and you pretended with that as well. And then the cockpit, and the reason this one became frustrating for my kids was if you have the front laser down, it's hard to hit the trigger to launch the cockpit. So whenever my wife or I would use this one, we'd have to have the cockpit, the laser up, and then you hit the little trigger right there, and then oops, he's got to be loaded in first. There we go. And you hit the little trigger, and whee, out he goes. So this was a fun one. We used to use him as like a little scout. I explained what all these mechs did to my wife and my kids. And we'd use them in different things on the table. Then we have the Sloth with Franklin Sakamoto. And this guy is just a little personal battle armor. It's not a mech. And there were 3 different types of battle armor in this line. And this guy walked by putting your fingers in the little holes like that and moving them forward like that. And then he fired his missile by pulling back on the little trigger. I had a hard time firing this one earlier. There we go, 1 and 2. So that's it. He did not eject. And he was piloted by Franklin Sakamoto. So that's the Sloth. The next one up is the Infiltrator with Adam Steiner. The Infiltrator is this guy. The inner spheres answer to some of the clan personal armor. The infiltrator has a big hatch here that opens up, and there he is. I vault and rider in there right now. And he could punch with that hand, and he had a little gun on this hand, and the gun fired with the button underneath. So there you have the infiltrator. The next one is the Banshee. The Banshee was the only flying item of the line, and it's this little jet right here that I was playing with at the beginning. Whee! And it would fly through, and it has 3 missiles. As you can see, one top, one on each side, but only the top one fires. The others are supposed to be like reloads. See, it fires by pressing the button, and then I put the little stickers on and stuff, and then you'd pull one out here, and you'd reload it, and be ready to go. And again, this is pretty cool because it's simulated, you're in combat, and your missile has to reload. And then it sat on its tail like that, and the cockpit came down, and its destruct portion was right here, and it blew off the back wing. I'll go ahead and I'll show that from the side so you can see it better. Okay, so you press the button, and then the wing goes, and it all tips over. That was a big one. My kids really liked that one. The next up is the Thor. Oh, this was one that my boys used to fight over. I get to play the Thor. There you go. The Thor is piloted by, is it Nikolai Malthus? Yes, Nikolai Malthus. I am here to conquer your planet. That guy. There he is. Old Nikolai. And all these guys had little neuro helmets, but we never put them in the cockpit with the neuro helmet because it was kind of tough to get them in and out. And this guy has 2 things that fire. One is his PPC, which just shot out like that, but was really good to hit other triggers. And then he's got a side gun here. And it's just you pull the trigger. And that's where the problem was. It used to jump up and out of the loader and stuff. So it held 4 missiles. You'd fire the missiles by pulling the trigger. And then his destruction sequence is you hit the panel here, and the arms fly off. So this was a family favorite. This one is, like I said, my boys used to argue over who got to play with the Thor, also known as the Summoner in the game. Coming up on the Hunchback. I'm going to save the Hunchback for last for a special reason. So we'll take a look at the Toad, also piloted by Nikolai Malthus. This is the Toad, also called Elemental. In the early books, it was called the Toad. As the inner sphere didn't know what to make of it. It's personal armor. He's got 1 weapon that fires. And then the little hatch opens up. And the guy's inside. So that's all this guy did. Okay? And the reason I say the Hunchback for last is this is the family favorite. This is the one we all loved. This one packs a real good punch. And was so popular that I ended up going out and getting a couple of other Hunchbacks for I bought one just in general. We all liked it so much that I picked up a second one, and my wife said, hey, don't I get one? So I picked up a third one, and then we would do our little battle mech fights, my wife, my oldest son, and I. And then when my youngest son was born, it wasn't real long after we brought him home that my wife said, you have to find a Hunchback for him. We all have to have our own Hunchback. So I said, okay, and this is the fledgling days of eBay. But I was able to go on eBay and pick up another Hunchback. I think I only paid around $10 or $12 for it. And brought it home, so all 4 of us have our own Hunchback. This guy is a really good mech. It's one of my favorites. It's got the heaviest missiles, but these missiles pack a punch. So I'm going to put them out here and show. The missiles fire by the buttons on top, and they fire with some kick. And then his destruct sequence is when the panel is hit. When the panel gets hit, his leg pops off. There's the panel. When the panel gets hit, so right here in the chest, the leg pops off and the mech falls over. We all loved that. These missiles were perfect to punch that, which is why we all wanted our own Hunchback. And this guy had enough kick that when we first got him, I could lay him on the floor and press the button and it would hit the ceiling. And it was an 8-foot ceiling. It would lay on the ground and hit the 8-foot ceiling. Let's see if he'll do it from a card table. Oh, just short. So it's been 30 years. They've lost a little bit of their oomph, but they're still pretty potent. So it shot about 5 feet straight up. Let's try the second one and see how he goes. Yep, about the same. So there you have it. And this is just another Banshee that I have. I think we have 3 Banshees. We have 4 Hunchbacks, 1 Mauler, 1 Thor, a bunch of different infiltrators. 1 or 2 other things I want to show that were all part of this. These were all part of this collection. For whatever reason, I kept the backs on some of these. This is what the blister pack, the Toad came in, the Infiltrator, and the Sloth. We used to use the boxes as obstructions during our big mech wars, so unfortunately those got destroyed over the years and have been thrown out. But I held onto these backs, and I really don't know why, but I did. So no guts, no galaxy. And it gave all the little stats of the mech itself, or in this case, the battle armor, and who would pilot it. All kinds of good stuff. The first Somerset Strikers of the Star League. So there you go. And I've got one other little thing to show you. These were Robocross? I'm not positive. I don't remember what these were, and frankly, I didn't do any investigating. But these were mechs that weren't mechs. They were some of the mechs that were part of the infamous does they have permission to make these mechs or not? This is the Archer. I forget what it's called. But these are some of the old Robotech toys that were out in the 90s. Once we got into the battle mech stuff a little bit, I recognized them as those molds, so I bought those. And I bought this Mad Cat. I got this for $2. Picked it up at KB Toys, new in box. And what it was is a little computer game. There's a little computer back here. You'd play the little game on that as if you were hunting mechs. You would take this guy, and he'd sit in your lap, and you'd be playing mechs. But if you wanted to, you could use him on the board. He has another arm that swaps out right here. So it was pretty neat. And for the 90s, this was fairly innovative. I don't know who made this guy. So if you do know, please leave a comment below. But there you have it. Oh, I got another little Robocross Archer that was part of this too. So we used to field quite a few of these things. We'd cover the family room floor with them, and we'd go ahead and we'd blast each other. Periodically, I would try to introduce some of the rules. My boys were used to playing Battletech. When Daddy's friends were over, I would always set them up with some plastic mechs on their own little table, and I'd give them their own little setup, and they'd play their own little mech war while we were playing Battletech proper. And they both also started playing Battletech probably when they were, I don't know, around 3, maybe. It's a good way for them to read dice to add, because you're throwing 2 dice. They have to add to tell me what the number was and tell me if that number is bigger than the other number. It was a real good way to teach them math. And then I'd show them, where they hurt the mech, and they'd color it in. And of course, they always won when they're real little. You got to encourage the little guys. So there you have it. That's my nostalgic look at some family favorite toys. I hope you liked it as much as I enjoyed bringing these out and playing with them. And I've been playing with them since before I went on camera, and I'm going to continue playing with them. I'm looking forward to seeing my boys' faces when they see that I have all these out. So that's all I've got today on page 121. I hope you liked this. If you did, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.